Hey, this is Matthew, and welcome back to Nerd News Today, and it's time for another statue review and unboxing. Now, previously we looked at the Superman Ascendant piece from Diamond Select. This was part of their DC Gallery Diorama series, and likely one of the last pieces from their series. Now, that Superman is more or less part of a series that was designed and sculpted by Alderton, and this would be the counterpiece to that Superman Ascendant. Here today we are looking at Batman Defiant. So before we take a deep dive into that statue, let's just take a closer look at the packaging here, because that's what we always do on Nerd News Today. And the box is the same we've seen with any of the Batman pieces from Diamond Select and their Gallery Diorama series. It has the gray, the black, so basically the gray is the top of his outfit, the black is his trunks, and the yellow utility belt goes around the entire box. We have an enormous window display here in the front, so you see exactly what you're getting, nothing being hidden whatsoever in the shadows. And we also have windows on the left and the right side, so you make sure you get a really great glimpse into what's inside this packaging. And of course, you've also got the Diamond Select sunroof on the very top of the package. The back of the box features a surprisingly lengthy bio about Batman. Like, this goes into some pretty good detail here about his past. It's a lot buffer than I expected it to be, and it even spends some time talking about a few of the super teams that he's worked with, despite the fact that Batman allegedly likes to work alone, even though we really know he spends a lot of time hanging out with the Bat family and all sorts of other super teams. And the back of the box, of course, mentioned this was designed and sculpted by Alderton. As we spoke about last time, this was more or less part of his project where he was doing his own takes on all these characters. So this is kind of the signature Alderton version of Batman. And for me, I feel like this was also meant to be kind of the definitive Batman statue from Diamond Select. And keep in mind now that we've now found out that Diamond is more or less done with the DC license. This is likely going to be one of the final Batman pieces they do until who knows when, if they ever get the license back. So I got pretty high hopes, especially because I really love Alderton's work. So let's go ahead and get this Batman statue out of the box and take a closer look at it from all angles. And here is our Batman Defiant piece now out of the box. And man, talk about imposing. Talk about defiant too, yeah. So this is a real beautiful Batman piece here. You know, I'm a big Batman fan. I'm surprised how many different statues I've gotten from Diamond Select of this character, and they really never disappoint me. I mean, again, it's also the fact that this is an Alderton piece, and I'm a huge Alderton fan, and he did my favorite statue of all time from Diamond, which was that armored Batman from Dark Knight Metal. So yeah, I can't really compare those two because they're very different subject matter-wise, but let's just jump in here, talk about this piece a little bit. So the thing I noticed right away about it is it kind of has a little bit of a feeling of Frank Miller's Batman, and I say that based on the look of the bat symbol on his chest, the tiny ears on the Batman. The utility belt looks a lot like the Frank Miller style utility belt. Yeah, just the outfit, it very much is also pretty simple too, and that's kind of the thing with Frank Miller's Batman in The Dark Knight Returns, is that it was a very simple costume. We're not talking crazy armor. It's not the new 52 Batman. No segmented parts of him. It's just gray. It basically just looks like pajamas with underwear on it, you know, but that's kind of how it should look. This is the classic superhero look. That's what it's all about. No frills, no nonsense. It's Batman, and he's going to kick your butt. So I really like the pose of this piece here too, because again, looking at it from all angles here, and we're going to get a nice little sneak peek of that cape. Oh, I'm going to come back to that in a minute. Yeah, you know, like, why is this thing called Batman Defiant here? Because, well, look at his pose. He is climbing on top of some rubble, whether it's the end of a battle or about to be the start of one for Batman here. The Dark Knight has arrived on the scene, and he's going to do something. And whatever it is, it's not going to be pretty. And I think Defiant is a great way to title this piece here because, you know, again, there's all this rubble on the ground, so something's already happened, but it hasn't exactly been finished yet, and now that Batman's here, things are about to be finished because he's about to deal with whoever caused this mess. And that's kind of the thing about Batman too, is it's almost like the Rocky Balboa superhero kind of thing, where it's about how much he can take and keep moving forward. And I really get a sense of that. I really get a sense that this Batman here does not care what's just happened. All that matters is he needs to get the job done, however he's going to get it done. So I love the face in this Batman here too. Like, I'm always a sucker for tiny ear Batman. That's like my #1 thing too. But I think the face looks really good here. Now, a lot of the face, of course, is obscured. So when I say face, I'm talking about the mask and how it fits in with the character and all that stuff. But, you know, even the part of the skin we can see exposed, I think it's painted really beautifully. It's very human looking. While the mask itself is, of course, not human looking because it's a mask. It's meant to be a little bit more dark and scary, and that's what it does. But I think that's what I like about it, is those two contrasts. And for some reason, I'm noticing it a lot more on Alderton's piece than I would normally. And I think a lot of that is owed to the paint job because, you know, his mouth, it's very elegant in comparison to everything else we're seeing here, because the Batman face, it's all sharp and angular, and he's got that angry looking brow, that angry expression on his face, which is again akin to the Frank Miller Batman. But the mouth and the lips and the cheeks, how they look, it's very sensitive looking. So it kind of reminds you that among all of this here that we're seeing, he's still a human being at the end of the day. And I think that's a pretty important thing to know when you're looking at a Batman piece. Now the stance, of course, I already kind of talked about that pretty in depth, I feel like. But yeah, it's a great looking pose for the character here. Very unique pose too, because a lot of times you'll just see him perched on things, or maybe throwing a batarang. I kind of like how this looks here, and I especially like the fabric. And that's, we're not even talking about the cape yet, but just, let's talk about the gloves, the way the fabric is clinging to his muscles. You can see it on the legs as well. The way the tights look on him. I especially love this part here. It looks very, very realistic. But yeah, we got to now discuss this cape here, because my goodness, man. So, normally it's fun when we talk about Batman pieces, his cape is always a major part of it, but the cape is typically just kind of like enormous and floating behind him, or might be just draped on something. This time the cape, it's almost kind of got a life of its own. It's almost like a symbiote, like a Venom piece, if you would. And it looks really great. You can just see it kind of swooshing around here very violently, very aggressively. And, when you take a look at it from this front side here, that's because he's gripping it over here with these hands, and it's currently just kind of furling around itself. So it must be a really windy moment here. Or perhaps we're actually just seconds after a big explosion. And the cape is kind of tattered and torn up a little bit too down here, and it's got these kind of loose ends. That's not, his cape and the pointy parts that he has on the end of it. This is some kind of action going on here within it. So I think that's really cool, because this cape kind of has a mind of its own here, and it's just billowing into itself. It's a little crazy, and it's kind of a great counterpart to this organized look, if you will, of Batman. And, I think organized is a great word for Batman, too, because he always is one step ahead of things. No matter if you think the situation's out of control, Batman's always got something for it. So, it's kind of cool to see these agents of chaos like the cape, and especially this rubble, around a character who's so clean cut. And that's another important thing to note about this Batman piece too, is it's very clean cut. It's very much stoic. Again, defiant is the word that comes to my mind without even thinking about the title again. But everything around him, it's just gone to madness. And so yeah, let's actually talk a little bit more about this base here, because this is like so much detail. I'm really impressed by this base. I always love Diamond Select's bases in general, but there is so much going on here in this rubble. It's not just like, a pile of dirt like we've seen in some other statues. Like, they went all out here, because we've got a piece of cinder block, we've got some 2x4s, we've got some metal garbage in the floor too, we've got a brick over here on this side. You guys can see there's a brick hanging out that he's stepping on. More cinder blocks, some metal girders, some metallic looking plates here, bricks, just a lot of garbage also, all sorts of different things. There's a bottle you can see down there too. There's just so much going on in this base here, and man, they went all out. Like I said, I've looked at some other pieces where they've had nice bases, but they've been pretty simple. This time around, there's a lot going on, and some of these pieces are individually painted, so, that's kind of amazing. This is so cool just because of that alone. Paint job on Batman too, very clean. There's a lot of nice weathering effect going on here, very subtle weathering. You can see there's some highlights in the paint, along with some shadows, some tone that's created here. I love, of course, that his boots are a little bit dirty too, because he's been walking through this garbage. I think the one thing that's kind of funny to me is the cape, and how they did some highlighting on the cape here, which is kind of similar to the same color he's got on the uniform here. I don't know how I feel, though, about it. I also like that they went with the blue colored Batman here. It's the blue and gray, not like black and gray. So that part's really cool. But, again, talk about this cape here. The cape is really great looking, and the highlights do add a little bit to the dimension of it, but I think it's too much, especially in these areas here. Like, I don't read it as necessarily dirt or kind of just garbage in the air from the battlefield. To me, it doesn't read that way. It's just kind of like overly highlighted. So that part I don't like. I would have liked maybe some darker tones at the very least to offset that, because you can see there are some darker tones as well in this cape, but they're too light. And if you really want to push that depth of field, you got to make them darker. You got to get your darks and your lights to contrast, and it's not doing that here. But that part doesn't kill me that much. I'll dock a little bit of points for it, but nothing really too major, because the rest of this piece is so strong. And really, with a piece called Batman Defiant, you got to have something really impressive, really imposing, and very defiant, and I think it hits all those marks. If you've never bought a Batman piece before and you've wanted one, or if you've got a bunch and you're looking to add to your collection, I think this is the one to get. I can't say I've really found any Batman statues I didn't like, but this one is certainly a step above, and that's certainly because Alderton worked on this. And again, I'm a big fanboy for his work. I think this is really a perfect piece in terms of anatomy, in terms of the fabric of the clothing, the paint job as well, just all the different details that are going on here. They all work together so well. They tell a really interesting story. And I think this is, as I like to say, one of those good centerpiece and signature pieces. So if you only had to have one Batman kind of thing, I'd say this is a fine piece to get to meet that quota in your statue collection. And by the way, too, I love the Batman symbol here. I didn't even talk about that yet, but I love that classic Miller-style symbol. It looks so good in that barrel-chested Batman piece. So, yeah, as you can see, I'm still raving about it, even though I'm trying to wrap up this review here. So, yeah, there's plenty more I could discuss, but again, just pose, wonderful. Muscles, perfect here. Anatomy is so great, the cape is amazing, and it's tiny ear Batman. I mean, what else do you need from it? So yeah, if you guys like this piece as much as I do, I recommend you go pick it up from Diamond Select, your local comic book store, or Amazon.com, which, by the way, folks, if you check out the description below, we have links for all the places you can buy this from, so please consider using those links and help support our website at no extra cost to you. So until next time, I'm Matthew. That is our look at the Diamond Select PVC figure diorama statue of Batman Defiant, a real knockout piece. So until next time, we'll see you guys here on Nerd News Today for more statue reviews and everything else we do here on the channel.